Okay, hey guys, it's me, Aspielauren, again. I've got my own YouTube video, and I have not been videoing as much as I would like to. Well, today I finally found some time to shoot a video, and after this weekend of coming up with notes and stuff to write on it, well, okay, why have I not been videoing? Well, for one thing, we've been busy. My family and I have been really busy. I gave you guys backgrounds on my, on a little bit of my life and what some of my symptoms were. But today, in today's video, I'm going to talk some about the symptoms. And here is the main symptoms of this disorder. Clumsiness, odd walking gait, an intense special interest in a specific topic area, difficulty in social situations. Well, not every social situation bothers me, but then again, a lot of them do. Inability to tolerate routine changes. An example of a routine change would be something like an assembly at school or something happening on the job if you work. And for anything else, like at home, that would be like a break in your typical routine, like eating. For me, my daily routine consists of getting up, getting dressed, eating breakfast, washing my face, brushing my teeth, and putting on some amount of makeup. And if I had to break that routine in any way, I'm not happy, and that can cause quite a significant meltdown for me, even though it's better than what it was. Sensory issues, and when I say sensory issues, I'm talking like lighting fixtures in a room, the way something feels up against your skin, like in the way of clothing, and loud noises. But my biggest problem is, when it comes to the sensory thing, my biggest issue is the way clothes feel up against my skin. I used to have some of the other ones, but I didn't notice them being as bad. I don't think I have the loud noise thing because I love concerts, especially Luke Bryan, and when I was young, New Kids on the Block were big. Okay. And the other one is inability to show empathy to others, even though the autistic person may want to be nice to others, they can't. A lot of times they don't have the ability to show empathy. I'm telling you, I felt empathy at times, even though I couldn't always show it in the way that I should have at times. Brutal honesty, for those that are able to talk and are high functioning. You really can't take jokes very good, but luckily I'm learning to take jokes. Learning disorders, in most forms of in basically about any form of the illness. Even though people with autism spectrum disorders can be highly intelligent, they can't always learn the way a normal person was. That's because I think a lot of that is because of sensory issues that are going on in their brain and the way their brain processes things. Emotional control issues, and the big one here is the world famous have a meltdown. What you usually do is some form of stimming. Like, it can range from any type of stimming. Even like people that talk sometimes have what's called verbal stimming, and they'll go off and talk to themselves, and other people will think, well, why are you like are you like talking behind my back or something? But they'll be verbally stimming when nobody else is around, or when they think nobody else is around. Sometimes I've been good at that, and people have caught me and heard me and gotten real frustrated with me for it. And I've been known to wring my hands when I'm upset. As you can see right here, my knuckles are very swollen. This is my, and some people pull their hair, as in like you would if you had that disease called trichotillomania. And I've always chewed on pencils and hair clips and combs and that kind of stuff when I'm upset, and along with screaming and crying. Well, let me say something else. Oh, I think a lot of these are pretty common in people with autism spectrum disorders. Gastrointestinal symptoms like constipation or diarrhea, bladder control problems, sleeping stuff, and their body doesn't tolerate medication all that well. They have a really big sensitivity to medicine. I suffer from a lot of their comorbidity physiological conditions, and also some very painful conditions too, which pretty much keep me from holding down a job, in addition to the Asperger's syndrome. Well, let's talk about the comorbidity psychological issues that are probably the most common. Obsessive compulsive disorder, panic attacks, and specific phobias that are really weird, which I've had it all. Separation anxiety, depression, and symptoms of attention deficit disorder. And now that group of symptoms tends to be more common in people with a high functioning type of autism, which used to be called Asperger's syndrome, which is what I have. Well, I want to talk now about the different types of autism. Well, all those symptoms fall under the category of autism, but there is, as of right now, there is different types of autism, and they're all labeled under one category. There's level 3, which is the most severe form, which is the severe autistic thing, and the level 2, which is classic, and it's probably the most common type of autism. And then there's level 1, which is the least severe form of it, which is what I have, and it used to be called Asperger's syndrome. And prior to this current DSM, there was actually 4 different types of autism. One called pervasive developmental disorder, not otherwise specified, then there was 2 other types of autism, which is called childhood disintegration disorder and the classic autism. I think that the reason that those were considered separate diagnoses in the previous DSM was because of the age of onset of when they started. Childhood disintegration disorder started at a later age than the classic autism did, but still, if I were following whichever one we were following, I would just give them autism, because those 2 were classically the same illness. But okay, and then there's Asperger's syndrome, which is the least severe form of it. Well, which is what I have. And as far as the autism spectrum goes, I'm going to say this. I believe it's not a cut. I don't consider it to be a cut and dry diagnosis, and I believe it yes, there is classic telltale signs, but then again, there isn't. Not every person on the autism spectrum is going to have the same symptoms. They're all different. It's just like anything else. Somebody with autism may be a highly social person, but then another person won't. But they can still have social difficulties, even though they're a very social person. And some people may are able to still function normally, yet still have autism symptoms. That's just part of it. I believe that there are other illnesses that mimic autism, and I will talk about that in a later video. But I believe it's important to rule out other symptoms that can mimic autism spectrum disorders, because, as I'm mentioning, not everyone with this illness is going to have the same symptoms, and some may only have like 1 or 2 symptoms, and some may be severely affected. It's just, and this goes for any type of autism, no matter which type you have. When I was much younger, I was moderately affected by Asperger's syndrome, but I was still able to live an independent life as much as possible because my parents were there for me and they helped me to lead an independent living life. And I want to talk about some other weird symptoms of autism spectrum disorders that I have researched about and I've kind of known about most of my life. Well, and these are the more subtle ones. These are some you can see on people's facial features and physical features once you get to know them. Well, a high arch to your forehead and a wider face set and like wider apart eyes. But see, like when I smile, as you can see, like one of my eyes closes more than what the other one doesn't. And I have a high arch to my forehead, and I'll show you this. See? Puffiness in the cheeks, which I used to have, and dark under eye circles. I read that was really common in people with autism spectrum disorders. No matter how much concealer I put on there, it seems like it don't really do much. And well, a smaller but high arch to your lips, and your lips look full. And then again, I considered that part of autism spectrum disorders a blessing, because look how many women are going and getting Botox done and paying a big war price to have it done to get their lips to look plump. Well, but then again, a lot of those can be just genetic things that that anybody could have, whether you ASD or not. And also, I read something about broad shoulders, and when my mom said that when I was born I had big shoulders, and I still have big shoulders. So, all right, well that wraps up this edition of my videos. Thanks, guys. Have a good day. Bye.